Hey everybody, this is willpitmanmd here, going to do a video on cold water immersion and why this is so beneficial for our health. So let me get situated here. I'm out at Mead's Quarry here in Knoxville, Tennessee. I have a little meat thermometer. The water's not too terribly cold. It's at 59 degrees Fahrenheit or 15 degrees Celsius right now. And this is a practice that I have in my weekly routine. I usually try to cold water immerse myself at least every other day, whether this be in a cold tub, out here in nature, or even in my own shower at home. Now, cold water immersion has become popular in the last several years for many reasons, because it is a great thing for our bodies both internally and externally. So from an external standpoint, this can improve our overall basal metabolic rate. Anytime you are cold and you are shivering, your body increases the base level at which it burns calories. So this can be something you use not as a primary source of weight control, but definitely as a supplemental thing. The other option, or the other reason that we like to do cold water immersion, is it's good for our cardiovascular health. Our blood vessels are made to contract and dilate. That's why you maybe look more vascular when you're out sweating and exercise or on a hot day. That's also why digits such as your fingers, toes, and nose will get cold when it's extremely cold outside, as your body has the ability to expand and contract its circulatory system. Now, this has a couple different benefits for your body. It also offloads the stress on your heart. So these things, by practicing them, at least intentionally, you can decrease risk for heart disease, stroke, and death by implementing in things such as cold water immersion. But internally, how does this help? There is an idea called hormesis, and what that is that everything in life just about causes some amount of stress. There are things that are a little bit stressful and things that are a lot stressful. So for instance, if you are practicing running and you do a couple sprints outside, that extra internal stress you're causing to your muscles and to your heart, to your circulatory and respiratory system, once you recover from that, will make you a better runner and hopefully give you more resilience over the long term. Now, if you went out without any running experience and ran for miles and miles and miles, you may give yourself such a stress that you cannot recover from it. The same thing's true with cold immersion therapy. Getting into a cold body of water until it becomes slightly to moderately uncomfortable several times a week will build this resistance to make your body internally more resilient, which we'll talk about here in a second. If you, for instance, jumped into the Arctic Ocean, similar unfortunately what happened to people on the Titanic, and you submerge yourself for an extreme amount of time where you risk the negative benefits or negative things of hypothermia and frostbite, you may not overcome this. So what we're looking for is a medicinal dose of cold water immersion, something that's going to make us healthier without harming us in the long term. And so when we do that, it stimulates a lot of things inside of our body. One of the things that it does is it decreases our amount of inflammation. All of us have chronic low levels of inflammation, and by doing activities that stimulate our parasympathetic nervous system, our rest and digest system, we can calm down some of that chronic low-level inflammation to make us feel better both on a physical level, but those inflammatory markers also hinder us mentally and emotionally. So there's been many studies that show that when we make our bodies physically healthier and cut down on some of that excess inflammation, that it can cure things like anxiety, depression, ADHD, schizophrenia, etc. Many things that are attributable just to neurologic or mental or emotional disorders, but that unfortunately, or fortunately, our bodies and minds and souls are all connected. The other nice thing in the wintertime is by getting into cold water, this stimulates our immune systems very abruptly and robustly. We increase the number of cytokine and cytotoxic T cells that we have inside of our body. These T cells are the different inflammatory markers that actually help us fight off viral diseases. So in a time for cold and flu and COVID seasons, a natural and free way that we can boost our body's own resilience to that is by practicing cold water immersion. So how do we do this, and how can you do this at home? If you do not have access to a cold water area such as a pond or lake or anything from that, this is something that you can easily practice in your own home with your shower. Turn on your shower to a colder than normal setting where it feels slightly to moderately uncomfortable for you, and try to deep breathe through it over the course of 3 to 5 minutes. If 3 minutes is too long because you've never done this before, start with 1 minute, start with 30 seconds. The idea is to build up resilience over time, and I promise this gets easier as you go. The other option, if you're looking for something to add this in to your routine on a more regular level and a more controlled level, is to make your own cold water immersion tub. My wife and I at our home have a old deep freezer that we have caulked the inside of it, and then we put water into it and have a little pool thermometer, and we'll hook it up to a wall timer, and we can dial in depending on the temperature outside and the temperature in our garage. You can make this warmer or colder and can adjust the temperature to wherever you want to sit it. Now, when you look at data that says how cold do you need to get, I think while there are quantitative measurements for it, qualitatively is what you're looking for. You're looking for an amount of time and an amount of stress that makes you feel that slight to moderate uncomfortableness, and then just to get out. If you're shivering and you're cold for an hour after you get done with this, that was probably too much. And next time, either dial back the time or increase the temperature a little bit. However, with any studies that you have on this, the colder the water, the less amount of time you need to spend in it to get the positive benefits. But it is one of the things that you want to practice on a consistent basis. So what I do with this personally is on any of my workout days, I make sure that evening that I take a cold shower or that I do some kind of cold water immersion. Exercise is a little bit tricky though, because that warmness that you get in your body, the acute inflammation from the exercise itself, is actually beneficial. We want that to cause a change and to use that stimulus in our body to repair and grow in the areas that we were training. So just by a rule of thumb, try to wait several hours after a workout session before doing any cold water immersion so that you don't negate any of those potential benefits. So I work out basically every other day with some kind of weight or resistance training and or body weight training. So on those days I will do cold water immersion. So that equates to 7 times every 2 weeks. And most recently has just been in our shower. It's cold outside, the water is cold in your tap and in your faucets. So using those water benefits is great. However, when I do have the time to get out and ground in nature, I think it is much better and much more fun and relaxing to be out here in a beautiful setting where you can not only get some cold water immersion, but also immerse yourself into nature. So looking at my clock here, it looks like we've been in the water for a little more than 7 minutes. I'm gonna do a little bit of deep breathing and then dunk my head a couple times and get on out of here. But thanks for tuning in. It's also a great way to wake yourself up. Thanks for watching.